You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, episode 29.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, the number one resource for growing your function musician business. If you're a solo wedding singer, part of a 12-piece luxury show band, or anything in between, and want to learn from other successful musicians, you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast. I am your host, Jack Twiner. If this is your first time listening, then welcome. If you're a regular listener, then welcome back. This podcast is for function musicians who are looking to grow their business, maybe book some more gigs and hear some inspiring stories, and generally just learn from others who've been doing it successfully for years. So today's episode is going to be another social media focused episode. I know I talk quite a lot about social media on here, particularly Instagram. And I know we've had an expert on before. That was back on episode 5. If you haven't heard that one, definitely go check it out. But I think it's such a big subject and such a powerful and free way to reach your ideal clients that it's worth getting a different perspective, and even sometimes just being reminded of some things as well. So anyway, this is quite a long one, so I'm going to get straight into it. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Karen Cureton. You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Karen Cureton from Cureton Consulting, an award-winning social media training and management company. Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jack, and thank you so much for inviting me to join you today.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. We have actually done a social media episode before, but I think it's such a huge thing and it's such a big part of running these types of businesses that it's just great to get another perspective on stuff. And it seems to be almost constantly changing as well. So getting like fresh update on things is just going to be great. So first of all, I guess let's get a bit of background on who you are, what you do, and I guess how you got into this role as well.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I'm somebody who didn't grow up with the internet. I'm going to get that one out there. That's a scary thought, but I know a world where, as my son will tell me, before dinosaurs ruled the earth, we made a joke about that. But yeah, I come from a career. I had a very successful career in sales. I was sales director for a national company, and I absolutely loved my job. And when I had a family, I realized that I didn't want to go back and be this scary career woman. And I was a really early adopter, particularly, I hate to say it, on Twitter, which is quite subjective because Elon Musk, there's a controversial subject. I think he's totally ruined it. But I broke myself in on Twitter because what I realized really quickly was every single thing that I knew about being a person who could sell multi-million-pound houses. I claim to fame, actually, I sold Alan Shearer's house back in the day.
Oh, nice.
And I realized that everything about selling is about relationship building. And everything about social media and getting results and clients from social media is about relationship building. So when we build KLT, Know, Like, and Trust, people remember us for the right reason rather than somebody who tries to sell to them. So long story short, people started saying to me, you seem really good at this stuff. Can you show me how to do it? And I'm a trained trainer. So I started training people. And where we're at now is the business has evolved to the point that I now train people either one-to-one and small programs, and I have a small portfolio of clients that I manage their platforms for them. I'm quite choosy about who I work with, but I love it. But at the heart of it is people forget the word socials there. So whether it's Instagram, face ache, as I like to call it, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you choose to hang out, it's about building relationships. And I think there's a sense of that has got lost, Jack. I think we all want to earn a living, 100%. We all want to get new clients. But the truth of it is actually that build the this is my mantra. This is my mantra for this year is build the relationship first. And people will remember you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really passionate about and The other thing is I, in the early days, invested in a lot of training for myself, and there's a lot of cowboys out there.
Yeah.
And I realized that people were just being very generalist and talking in jargon. And every industry, as we know, every industry has a jargon. So my mantra is, let's get rid of the jargon.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it in real language and bring it to life.
Yeah, awesome. So do you focus on one specific social media, or do you kind of do all of them?
Well, I don't want to be a generalist, but it's a bit like if you have kids, you shouldn't have favorites. LinkedIn is my favorite. I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But actually socially, I hang out on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm not touching TikTok. But actually, as I say to my clients, the principles and the way in which I teach, you can apply it to any platform.
Yeah.
It's the methodology is slightly different. The language, the technical element of setup. I've got a lady at the minute who runs a furniture and gift shop, and she set herself up on Instagram. She set it up all wrong. I said to her, let's get the basics right, and then everything else will follow. And I think that's the thing but LinkedIn, I would say broadly, is my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think Facebook is full of people just saying, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, and ads.
Yeah.
Instagram's all, look at me.
Yeah.
And TikTok, look at me dancing. It's that thing. But whatever platform it is, it doesn't matter, because if you it's about finding your tribe, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm definitely an Instagram user. I've never been on LinkedIn. Would you, like, for like the audience listening to this, do you think LinkedIn could be useful to them?
No.
Okay,
honestly, no, I'm a straight talking Geordie girl. I would say, I would always, my top tip is hang out on one platform where the majority of your perfect clients are hanging out. So if you're a musician or you're a creative of any sort, so one of my clients I work with, they do art trails. You see them around town centres all around the country. The one we've just launched is in Burton-on-Trent, and Burton's a big, for those people who don't know it, it's a big brewing town. And last year they closed the brewing museum, and we managed to get the client I'm working with managed to get funding, and they've got these 2 meter high fiberglass barrels. And we did a competition for artists to paint these barrels in these incredibly beautiful, beautiful designs. Just so innovative. Instagram is 100% the right place for that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, and actually this is the polar act, I've just ran the reports today, organic reach we got for that project in 1 week was 28,000 people. But oddly enough, even though Instagram is the perfect place for it, their fans, the people who walk these art trails, are on Facebook.
Yeah.
So there is a connection between the two. But I think if you're a creative, 100%. I mean, I see a lot of people like me, a lot of coaches and trainers are popping up on Instagram. But I got to tell you, I buy a lot of cat toys on Instagram. I buy jewelry. I buy all sorts. I love Instagram. I love it. It's and on Instagram, I'm really Karen. If you ever see me live on Instagram, it's me. Whereas when I'm on LinkedIn, because I go live on every platform every Monday, I'm a bit sad. I'm Karen, but I'm Karen with a capital corporate Karen.
Yeah.
And I think if you're creative, you want to be real. You want to be down to earth. You want to be genuine. And I think that's what I personally love about Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And I think a lot of the people that I follow and a lot of people that are successful on Instagram are just themselves, and they're just showing their lives and how they kind of live, and with a twist on like their work and stuff as well. But those are the ones that I think do the best. So, I mean, that's we'll base this mainly on Instagram, because that's going to be helpful for me as well, because that's what I use. Where do we start with like building a successful Instagram? I also want to just mention, like, I feel like mine has recently just gone down the toilet, and my reach has gone nowhere, and I'm not really sure why.
Oh, the algorithm is a nightmare at the minute. It's really astonishing. I'm trying to do a number of strategies, and I think this would be the top tip I would give, is use the data that Instagram gives you to tell you when who's following you, what your engagement rates are, but mix it up. I think what I try and get across to people I work with is think about your social media, your Instagram feed, your grid, like a really interesting magazine in your subject matter. Mm-hmm. And if it's full of stuff that all looks the same, so if anybody looks, in fact, I'm about to go on today in archives. So last week, my new website went live. Every single day I went live on Instagram and was talking about the website, and I was doing an offer a day. Now, I don't advocate that because that's selling. We don't want to be sold to. But as a one-off, I did that. But broadly, what I'm really keen is, and if people are following you, say somebody says, oh, you might want to follow this guy, you're going to look at their grid and say, is it interesting or is it look really samey?
Yeah.
Because what people do is they get on this, I always say it's like turn the cruise ship round really fast. When you get into a pattern of, this is my content, this is what I do, to make those changes takes time. So I would say, firstly, look at somebody who you really respect in your industry. What sort of engagement? I mean, perfect example, actually, yesterday, I was looking at a local, very premium restaurant that's owned and run by a former England cricketer. So he's got the following. But actually, I was looking on his page yesterday, the restaurant page, not getting engagement on the social media because it's really static. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's pictures of food. I want to see more than that. I want to meet the team. I want to hear about the people. I want to talk about all the reasons why I'd go there rather than spend my hard-earned cash somewhere else. So I think it's really essential that you have variety in your news. You know, if you picked up a magazine, I don't know, if you're a musician and you're picking up a magazine and all it is adverts selling guitars.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy that magazine again. You're not going to, or if it's an online subscription, you're not going to renew your subscription because all they're doing is selling to you. Whereas if you give people tips, ideas, hacks, easy ways to do this stuff, or behind the scenes of how we're doing things, I think that is going to get people. But mix it up with the time of day that you're posting your content. I think that's really important. I always say, put yourself, if you are, I don't know, if you're a band and you do a lot of work with weddings, have a look and see when the event planners are actually engaging in other people's content. That's what I would do. 100%.
Okay, so how do you actually check that?
Well, that's the bit that it takes a bit of legwork. So I would find somebody who's maybe a competitor, and have a look and see, and almost you want to piggyback on those competitors, because what you can do is if you go into your competitors and have a look and see when they're commenting on other people's stuff. That's what I do. I'll put an hour aside. In fact, there's a graphic that I'll share with you, and you can pass it on to your subscribers.
Yeah.
That I'll say is, what people tend to do with social media, Jack, is they will just post and expect results.
That is me, yeah.
And it's a bit like me. Well, I'll put it in like old school terms. If the shop in your nearest, in Reading High Street, in the main shopping area in Reading, in the shopping centre, wherever, if it put a nice new shiny window display and they expect people to come through the door, that's it. That's the only thing they've done. It's not going to work. What you need to do is look at spending some time building your audience. So following people is a really nice strategy that I've started implementing, which is when somebody follows me, I send them a DM voice note to say, hey, thanks for following me. It's great to have you as part of my Instagram family. Check out my stories. Each week I share tips, ideas. I'm live on a Monday. Why not join me and ask questions? So I'll do stuff like that, because what I want to do is start and form an actual relationship with these people.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to look at your competitors and see who's engaging in their posts and see when they're engaging. There's not a quick fix at the minute. There's some incredible tools out there that will give you all sorts of data. And I'm proper geeky like that. I love a bit of data.
Yeah.
However, what we need to do is look at, well, who do we see as a competitor in our industry? Let's have a look and see what they're doing. And then look at following those people that are engaging in their posts. That's the sort of thing you can get it. So I often advocate, if you spend an hour a week, and I call this like business, it's not very creative friendly, I'm afraid. It's business growth activities. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you look for, 20 new people to follow a week, the rule of thumb is that around half of them will follow you back.
Yeah.
But then start and have a meaningful relationship. I saw a great example of this actually. And she is like a major person, is the lovely Stacey Solomon.
Yeah.
So Stacey Solomon, national treasure, adored by everybody, mother of about God knows how many kids. But she was the keynote speaker at an event I was at in February. So I'm very fortunate. Theo Pafitas has a community that you can enter, and it's completely free. Top tip for all of your listeners. Just search for hashtag SBS or Small Business Sunday. And it's a competition you can enter every Sunday night. And I won it. I won it years ago. Takes no skill. I can't say it took any skill. The other award I got, it did take some skill and some hard work to win that one. So she was the keynote speaker. So when you win Small Business Sunday, you get invited to his event, spend a day with him, completely free of charge in Birmingham. And he has incredible speakers. He has former dragons. He has all sorts of people. So Stacey was there, and she was saying, and people were asking her questions about Instagram. And I love this. She said, what I do, if I see something I like on Instagram, she says, I spend a lot of time when the kids are in bed or I'm just doing nothing, waiting for a taxi. I'll scroll through. And if I see something I like, I share it to my stories. And I've started doing that. If I see something that I think, I like that person, I like what they're saying, I'm going to share their content to my stories so my followers can see it. The extreme example of this was Stacey. Somebody said when they did a Q&A at the end, this woman put her hands up and said, Stacey, I just want you to know that overnight you transformed my business. And what she'd done was she'd shared, this woman had a business selling handmade children's clothes. And she'd shared it to her stories. She said overnight her website crashed. So that's an extreme example of that. But if you have a target client is, venues, wedding planners, or, event management people, if that's your perfect client, I would be sharing their content to my stories all the time, tagging them in posts. That sort of thing will really increase your reach. That's where we got all of that reach and engagement with this Barrels project in Burton-on-Trent, because we had all the artists were tagging us, so all their followers on Instagram saw it. And, our audience isn't on Instagram for this, but the artists are.
Yeah.
So the artists, so every day I'm checking the socials. We've grown those accounts so quickly. But it isn't, and the other bit of advice I would give you, it isn't necessarily about having hundreds of thousands of followers. It's having an engaged fan club, almost like an audience that genuinely loves what you're talking about, I think is really important. So searching for people, and because the other thing is, I think with Instagram, and when you go into the insights, it will tell you out of your followers who are inactive. And you can use tools like there's one called Just Unfollow. And you can see where if people aren't following you back, you can then remove them. So you've not got people who aren't active. It's the same on any platform. Is if you follow somebody on Instagram and they're not active, well, why would they follow you back?
Yeah.
So what I do is I work on the basis of, and this is a really good tip, actually. I'm going to say that because it's my tip, aren't I? But it's a good tip, is make a list of synergy businesses. It's a big word, I know. But synergy business is somebody who has the same customers as you, but doesn't offer what you do. So they're complementary to you. And I would make a list of them and I would follow them because we're not a threat to each other. And what we can do is then tag each other in posts, and you're starting to build this rapport. The other thing you can do on Instagram, which is a really top thing, is make people your favorites so you see their content first. But why not ask your followers to ask people to make you a favorite so they don't miss any of your content? And that's a really important thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could do that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. So when I like a business, so for example, I work with an amazing photographer. He's all over Instagram. He's also written a cookery book. So he's I have both of his accounts. I've favorited them. So I share his content into my stories because I've not got a massive amount of followers at the minute. I think I'm at about 2,500 followers. But a lot of them aren't active. And actually, I had to remove a lot as well because I had a load of middle-aged American men. Don't know why.
Yeah, I noticed the other day that it comes up if you look at your followers, like with accounts that you may want to get rid of because they might be a bot or something like that. I didn't do it because I didn't want my followers to go down.
But that's the thing. It's a bit like I did an activity last week where I did daily emails to my mailing list because I was promoting my new website going live and I was doing a daily offer. And I knew 100% I would lose subscribers. I knew that.
Yeah.
But I told them the week before, heads up, you're going to get a daily email next week, and this is why. So they knew. And I said, you can unsubscribe if you wish. And I lost, I don't know, 10% of my subscribers. But actually, if they've gone, and it's a bit like followers, if they've gone, they probably weren't interested anyway. They'd forgotten that you'd followed you or forgotten that they'd signed up. Yeah,
we haven't done an episode on email marketing yet, and it's definitely on my list. But yeah, I've looked into email lists and stuff a lot, and yeah, they say you need to clean your lists constantly and get rid of people that aren't interested because one, it costs you money to them to be on there, right? And just kills your engagement a little bit, which is what's happening on Instagram. So yeah, I guess cleaning up your followers is great.
I'm going to pick you up on that one though. I saw somebody speak on email marketing at the event we were talking about, Atomicon.
Yeah.
And they said, don't clean your list because you'll have a lot of lurkers. And actually this happened to me. So in April, I decided to launch an in-person LinkedIn workshop. Put it out to my list. Somebody signed up straight away who's been on my list, must be for 4 years, has never engaged with anything. And the rider I'm going to give you for your audience particularly is people don't get married or have celebration events every day, week or month.
Yeah.
People don't need your services every day, week or month. So when you have a service-based business, think about, just take a step back from it. I'm doing it myself now. Take a step back from it and think, how often does somebody need what I offer? So there may be people getting your emails and not opening because they don't need you. But when they need you, if you're consistently landing either in their Instagram newsfeed or in your newsletter, in their inbox, and they just click and delete. So it happened with me actually with a travel agent. And I just deleted it every time. I don't know, I can't be bothered. Don't want to hear from him. Don't want to hear from him. And then last week we said, do you know what it is? Let's book a really special holiday next year. We've got a big wedding anniversary. Let's book a special holiday. Who was the first person I thought of? The guy who emails me every week. Yeah,
it's just staying top of mind, isn't it?
Front of mind. And that's the thing is, everything, whether it's, social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, hate calling it that. TikTok, doesn't matter. It's about consistency is key. It's consistently show whatever marketing you're doing for your business. And, I did all different kinds of marketing when I worked in the corporate world. It's about showing up regularly so people do remember you for the right, that right reasons, for being genuine and helpful and interested and maybe doing things a bit differently.
Okay, so first step really is you need to define who your audience is and get that right. And then
100%.
Do you have sort of like a weekly or monthly even sort of strategy or plan? Like this post goes on a Monday, this goes on a Tuesday, or do you kind of keep it natural? Or
I'm very much a planner. And part of that is because unfortunately 5 years ago, I came back from holiday, being abroad, it was pre-COVID, being abroad, came back, and on the Monday, came out on the Sunday, on the Monday, I did all my planning for the next 2 weeks. I planned 2 weeks ahead. And on the Tuesday, I ended up in hospital with pneumonia. And I was very poorly. And this is what I say to my clients. It's not all about me, but it's about explaining that if you got ill, what would happen to the marketing and promotion of your business. So I always say the plan, if we're going to talk, I'm a builder's daughter, put the foundations in place by having a really clear plan. So part of your strategy, thinking about who you want to work with, why they'd want to work with you, what are the pain points, the challenges that they have, that you can overcome those, making their life easy and making them look good. Excuse me. But I think the other thing is thinking about who you're competing against, making sure that your bio is representative. We've got 5 seconds typically when somebody lands on our Instagram profile or bio, that they land there and they get what we do.
Yeah.
They have to understand who we are, how we can help them. And then with regard to your content, and I've just hosted a training this morning actually all about content, is the best tip I can give you is think about a content framework. So creating almost like a plan. So on a Monday, my personal framework is on a Monday, I go live every Monday morning. That's Monday's content, done. Really easy. It goes onto my YouTube channel. It goes onto my Facebook page. It goes, and I do a separate one on Instagram because it's a different tone of voice. I'm very much more relaxed on Instagram, and the cat might wander around in front of the camera and all sorts. She's got her own Instagram account, actually. So, funny enough, I do her content as well. But then on a Tuesday, I might share some customer feedback, or I might share a tip. And on a Wednesday, I might do something entirely different, like talk about a client I've recently worked with and what problems they were having. But what I think about is, what time of day am I posting?
Yeah.
Putting myself in my I almost say we almost need to get over ourselves a bit and think about the person we want to see it. Who are they? And when are they most likely to be on their phones? I think that's really important. And that's where the schedulers come in. Yeah.
Are they, I just do my post first thing in the morning because then it's done and I don't have to think about it. And that's consistently every day. And that's maybe why, as I was saying earlier, my reach has just sort of been killed recently. So I need to mix it up a bit and start posting other times, and maybe some different kind of content as well. Like, do you think it's good to have a selection of like reels, posts, pictures, videos?
Oh God, yeah, 100%. So I only post on Instagram usually 3 times a week.
Okay.
So I'll do first thing on a Monday, but then I'll do Wednesday night. And Wednesday night post usually midweek. I might make a joke for it. Happy hump day. We made it halfway through the week. What you've been up to? A variety of imagery as well is really important. So I will do my lives. I'll do reels. You can do loads of reels that haven't even got it. If you're not comfortable being on camera, because not everybody is, There's loads of stuff you can do, like behind the scene if you're getting ready. I don't know, you're a musician, getting ready for a gig, packing up your kit, talking about where you're going, maybe tagging the venue that you're going to, that sort of thing will do really well.
Yeah.
Really well. And then on a Friday, I'll maybe do something totally different. It's a budget thing, but investing in brand photography and working with a really good brand photographer is worth the investment. So I'll get photographs done maybe about I'm a typical girl. I keep changing my hair. So for you guys, it's not as much of a challenge as much, but I get brand photography done about every 18 months. And it's 73% more likely that people will engage in your posts if it's got you in them.
Yeah.
Love it or loathe it. I can't bear it. I do my lives. I can't bear seeing myself on camera. I hate it. But people engage with people. It's building, we're building relationships here, Jack.
Yeah. I've sort of recently started doing more 2-camera stuff because that's what I've found I've been told does work better. And I've tried 2 different styles. So I've tried like doing like a minute and a half long speaking to the camera video. And then I've also heard that doing like a really short 6-second or whatever video, just saying what the content's about, and then having all the content written in the post. Neither worked. So, and that's like, and it's really demoralizing. And then you just kind of, wow, what's the point, and stop doing it. But I feel like my problem is probably the consistency and not keeping up with it enough and keep trying, It's
a commitment though, isn't it? It's a commitment of time. The other side of it is good social media content done well with a plan shouldn't take long. And the other thing I would say that's a really top tip that I always share with clients is your listeners will have a shed load of evergreen content. And there's an amazing LinkedIn guy who's over in the States who I follow all this stuff, and I really like him. He's called Lucas O'Keefe. He's amazing. And he and I are both on the same page. I've commented on a few of his posts, and he will regularly talk about, you've got a shed load of content that you've already created and had go out there, repurpose it. Nobody will ever say to you that 7:45 p.m. on the 17th of July 2023 that you put exactly the same post out. Nobody will ever say that.
Yeah.
But it's also a good way of freeing up your time and thinking about, well, let's just test it. I'm a big fan of let's test and measure. So I have sort of a recurring reminder that the first of every month I use Metricool because it does it for me. I just set it up and it runs a report for me and it tells me everything about all my platforms. And I can look at that data and say, okay, these posts performed really well. So what will perform well on Instagram doesn't necessarily perform well on LinkedIn or FaceAche, as I sometimes like to call it. Different platform, different content will perform well.
Yeah.
I went live on Instagram every day last week, and I had one day where I went on quite early in the morning. It was about 8:00, and I got a bunch of people joined me and were chatting to me while I was live, and that's great. But all of that's content we can repurpose. And I think that's the challenge I'm not a traditional creative, but I'm very creatively minded. And I think we need to mix it up. Think about it like a pick and mix in a sweet shop. What's going to be interesting? I sort of have a 3 rules thing about good content. It needs to be generally interesting, relevant to the people you want it to relate to, that it's going to tap into their touch points. And thirdly, not selling, because we don't want to be sold to. We really don't want to be sold to. But we've got so many different ways to engage people. We've got podcasts, we've got video. We can do all sorts of different kinds of fancy reels now using tools like Canva, which can do a lot of this for you. It's phenomenal. there's so many things. So there should be no reason at all why our content shouldn't be interesting and varied. But I've got a really good one, a top tip for your listeners, which I tell my clients. I call it the 3 Ps framework for content. Problem solving. So what problems do you solve? That's 1 P. Second P is positioning, and that's positioning you as an authority. So what's your pedigree, the story behind your business, maybe what clients have said about working with you. And the third P, which for me on Instagram is so important, is personality. You need to be getting your personality across on a regular basis on Instagram, because people will engage with that reality, which is why I never lock the cat away when I'm on Instagram. She'll come in, she has an obsession about looking at herself in a camera. She's just crazy. But that's real. And it's that reality that people love.
Yeah. Interesting. I feel like, I need to just be more consistent with my stuff and
consistency is key, but it's also about building. You know, I work on 4 pillars of, it sounds a bit grand, doesn't it? 4 core elements you need to master to be successful at any platform. So that's having a really good plan, interesting, engaging content. The third one is spend some time building your audience and build a community of the right people.
Yeah.
And the fourth element, which is where a lot of people fail, have a methodology in how you're going to take them from having an awareness and interest to working with you to actually becoming a client or a customer. And do you know it is that fourth element is so many businesses don't have in place, and large businesses don't have that in place.
So, I mean, that kind of maybe goes on to the last sort of point, is like, how do you, once you've built this kind of stuff, how do you then turn them into the customers without selling to them?
What you do is you find a way to have another touch point with them. So for example, that could be if you want to download your top tips when choosing a band for your event, questions to ask, reverse engineer it with you in mind. So I have one that I have, which is 6 ways to skyrocket. Skyrocket was a bit of a crazy word. Skyrocket, because we like the graphic. Skyrocket. I can't even say it. My teeth aren't working. Need to get a new set. Skyrocket your social media success. And it's a pre-recorded webinar with loads of tips. So that is what marketing people will call a lead magnet. So it's on my Instagram, it's pinned to my top of my grid. So you can pin 3 posts if you don't already know, everybody. 3 posts at the top of your grid, and they would really be personality posts, authority positioning posts, and maybe something that's a bit of a sales post, which is let's chat about, book a no obligation call. Could even be somebody actually messaged me, even though I regularly say, let's have a chat. I regularly put it on my platforms. Let's have a chat about your social media challenges. Let's have a free, no obligation chat. This guy private messaged me. He runs an architect's practice and said, do you offer a no obligation call? And I thought that was yesterday's post. So what I learned from that is you need to tell them again.
Yeah.
But so how you get them from being aware and interested in what you're doing to becoming customers is almost taking them off the platform.
Yeah.
So whether that's you start by sending them a voice note as a private message to say, hey, it was great. Thank you for following me. Lovely it would be great to learn more about you and your venue or wherever it is that you're talking to them about. But actually having some content that will give them a free taster of what you offer is best practice. So if you were somebody, a lot of retailers do this. So they'll do free post and packing off your first order. Use this discount code. There's a company up in the Northeast. She spoke about TikTok at the event I was at last month. They're called the Chocolate Smiths. I love that name, Chocolate Smiths. They're brilliant. Really good. They do loads of lives, loads of stuff on TikTok. And you go on their page, you click on the link to go to the website, you straight away get a pop-up which says use this code to get free post and packing or 10% off your first order. That's a classic sort of catch it all for you're a new customer. But actually work backwards. How do we get them to be a customer? Which is we find some way to either share something with them, whether that's a tips download. So I have top 10 tips to grow your Instagram engagement. And I've switched it off at the minute, but it's a freebie. They download that. So if any of your listeners have something or want to create something they can use, what you do is you create the free thing, and it's a bit boring, but you've got to do it.
Yeah.
You create an email automation in a tool like MailerLite, which is completely free version of MailerLite. And you can create an automation there. So if somebody says, I don't know, top tips for choosing your wedding band. Let's say that's a tips thing. You have the link in your bio. They go into that link, they click on that, they have to input their email address. They then get a series of emails. The first email said, here's your tips. Your second email might be, oh, here's an example of our most recent piece of music we wrote, or a venue what a venue said about working with us, or this is a recording of us playing live at a recent wedding at really high profile venue. So you send them a series of emails, short emails, not long ones, and at the end of that, you potentially make them an offer to work with you. And that's a classic lead magnet sequence. So you have, but you need to have, they almost say, the email marketing specialists almost say you need to have a lead magnet for each of your offerings. And it's boring, and I hated doing it. I've got to tell you, I'm totally honest about it. I hated doing it. Really pushed me out my comfort zone. But it's getting something working in the background, because I had a client recently, in fact, started in January, and her account got hacked, and she's not been able to get back into her account. So that's the other benefit of doing some of these strategies is you get people's emails lists, because she's now going to have to start completely from scratch. She ran her whole business. She was selling candles, selling it through Instagram and Facebook, and she's lost access to her personal Facebook. She can't get back onto either platform.
Yeah, it's terrifying. That is.
It's awful. It's awful.
And I mean, I've heard about it a lot, especially in this kind of industry, because they're right or wrongly, like people are doing covers and there are copyright laws or whatever. And I don't think anyone's actually breaking them, but that's why their accounts get killed, because there's some sort of copyright infringement, and sometimes they don't get it back and their whole business is just gone.
It's horrendous. It's a horrendous chat. And I think that's why I always say to people, whether you have a lead magnet or not, try and have some sort of methodology to get their contact details so you can keep in touch with them. So for example, last week, my launch offer for my website was only available to my mailing list. So in the month running up to that, I was doing a lot of content about, if you want to get my weekly tips, sign up here. So I got their data so I can keep in touch with them away from the platform. And that's so important.
Yeah. We're kind of moving on to like email marketing now, but I love that. Once you've kind of made these lead magnets and things and set up that email sequence, it's kind of done, right? But then how often are you doing still like weekly emails to keep up with that?
I read something actually the other day that said typically only 1 in 4 people on your list will read your emails.
Yeah.
And actually, it's less than that will actually read it properly. They might open it. And so one of the things that's really important, and that's why the experts, the email marketing experts, I've just done loads of training on it, say you shouldn't clean your list, because there will be people, it's like on social media, Jack. I've had clients from Instagram who've followed me for ages, for years. I think I've been on Instagram about 7 years. And never engaged, never commented on any of my posts, but then they've messaged me and said, Karen, can I have a chat? I need your help.
Yeah.
A lot of people lurk on social media. I had a client last week. She's just landed her biggest client ever. And she said to the woman, how did you hear about me? Because often what we've got to remember is there are other ways people hear about us. And she said, well, actually, she said, I've been following your posts on LinkedIn for 2 years. But it's only now I'm ready to work with you. And that could be the same on any platform. So we never know that point at which they're going to change about being interested in us. So emails, I think for me, it's almost like you've got your social presence. That's really important. You're consistently showing up there at least a couple of times a week. There are so many automation tools you could use that you could preload your content in, which is what I do. So I set it all up and play it around. It's almost like a game of Jenga. I sort of move things around about what's going to go out when. But then you need to have other ways that people are. I spoke to a guy, actually, he's a musician and he writes music for wedding ceremonies, celebrations and things. And I spoke to him, he's up in Northumberland. And I said to him, really lovely guy, obviously very talented. He also teaches music. So he has several different services. And I said, what marketing other than social media are you using for your business? And he said, nothing. I said, how many clients have you had from your social media? He said, none. And that's the challenge is what will resonate with you, Jack, might not resonate with me, might not resonate with Joe Blogs down the road. So we need to have multiple different ways to engage with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to that just staying top of mind as well and popping up in all these various different places when the time is right for someone. So, I mean, we're getting towards the end of the episode now. We're running out of time. We could just keep on talking about this forever, I know, and I'd love to. But there's a couple of... No, not at all. It's been great. There's a couple other things I want to get into. And we've mentioned this slightly, and that's algorithms. And I feel like it's just one of those words that no one really knows what it means, but you hear it all the time. It changes all the time. So, I mean, how do you know that it's changed, and how do you keep up with it?
Virtually impossible is the honest answer. Is I would say make sure that you are following Adam Mosseri on Instagram. Follow him because he is at the heart of everything Instagram. So he's in my favorites. I'm on his mailing list. I see all of the stuff that's coming through. But the crux of it is the algorithm, all they are, I have a picture. Have you seen the film, The Matrix? Any of the Matrix films? Yeah. Okay. So I see algorithms like The Matrix. Yeah. I've got this thing in my head, like all these lines going up and down like The Matrix. It just tickles me to do it like that. But think of it as it's all of these little gears that are moving around. And social media isn't written for human beings. It isn't designed for humans. It's designed for search engines. So the more content you can put out there that is going to be in the language of what people would search for in your industry, what you offer, how you help people, the easier it's going to be for you to be moved around in the algorithm. But also the algorithm doesn't like it when you're doing too much. It doesn't like it. Well, it's not really relevant for Instagram, but it doesn't really like it if you're on Facebook. It doesn't like you leaving Facebook very much. Yeah. They like you to stay on platform. But there is a big train of thought now that actually the more original content you're putting out there, and for you and your listeners, this is a really easy one potentially, because when you're putting out podcasts or music or video of people, it's going to help. But I think the other side of it is that we need to be constantly checking it. So find an influencer, find somebody that you think, Adam Mosseri is the number one person on Instagram. He is it on Instagram, and he is top of my list of people that I check in every week because he will do an update because it's changing all the time. They're making changes to Reels. They're making changes to stories. and it's all rolling out. But what happens is, and this is the frustrating thing, they'll talk about these changes and it all happens in America first. Mm-hmm. And then it happens over in Europe at some point. So keep your eyes on it. I try and share whatever's new and changed and different on my socials when I can, because it is changing. But the key thing is if you're showing up regularly, if you're posting the right time of day, if you're posting interesting content, you're going to help yourself. It's almost like a game of cards. You've got to be sat at the table to have a chance of winning. If you're doing all of this stuff on a regular basis, but the algorithm is changing all the time. I went to Instagram this morning. I go on every morning before I do any other work. And I check what I've got, what's happened over the night, any middle-aged American men I need to remove, because they do, and they jump on my lives and say, oh, hi, Karen, your hair looks nice today. Oh, God, awful. But then I check it, and then I'll look to see. And this morning I had a quick scroll through my feed. There was a post of a client, because she's in my favourites, and it was from Friday.
Yeah.
And that's the big frustration I have, is it's not really a chronological feed, but you can fight it a bit by getting more engagement. Asking people to comment on your posts is a really, if you'd like me to post more recordings like this, comment, yes, please. Or put an emoji in the comments, and the algorithm loves that. So the more engaging your post is, the more likely are people to see it, because it's going to boost it up the feed. So there's lots of little tricks like that you can do.
That reminds me of people do. I've done it as well myself. Do giveaways and competitions and stuff where you have to share, whatever. Are they? I mean, they are good for that specific piece of content to go around, but I've heard rumors that they actually are bad for you, because then you can, I don't know, it kind of kills you, because then your reach goes right down afterwards, because you don't normally get as much engagement. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So I've got a client who runs they have a small chain of garages, and we have some months we've had 3 competitions. And I'm just going to share a bit of a tip with your listeners. If you do a competition, make sure you protect yourself and you've got terms and conditions in place, because you will get hammered if you haven't. There's one of my clients I just spotted. She ran a competition over the Euros weekend and she didn't have any T's and C's on her page. And all you need is the wrong person to see that and you could be compromised. So yes, competitions are great, but they can massively negatively impact on your reach. If you say, I don't know, you're doing an event open to everybody, and you just want to get lots of bums on seats, you want to sell tickets for an event, doing something like that and get that. But what I've noticed recently, actually, because I'm always entering competitions on Instagram, it's quite a few now are saying, go to the link in bio on our website and enter the competition there. Now, that's a really nice little marketing hack, because actually, while you're on the website, you're going to have a look around, aren't you? Or a lot of people will. But it can definitely have a negative impact on reach. There's no doubt at all about it, Jack. Yeah.
So I'll be mindful of, I would almost take a step back and think, am I doing this competition to grow my numbers? Would I be better doing some promoted posts, using some small amount of budget to actually get people? So I'm planning to do some paid ads through September that will help me grow my Instagram account.
Yeah.
And it'll be, I'm not asking people to pay for it, it's be for my lead magnet, for people to have something for free.
Yeah. I've got a million more questions, but we're running out of time. So I get one other thing I definitely wanted to ask, is you've mentioned a couple of tools that you use. So I just wanted to go through and maybe see if what you'd recommend people to start using, like outside tools.
Yeah. So Mentimeter is brilliant. Not Mentimeter, Metricool. I always get the two of them mixed up. Metricool is a brilliant tool, and I use it for running reports, but it's also a really good scheduling tool. I absolutely love it. And all I do is I set it up once a month. The first of the month, it sends me all my clients' reports. So if you want to have all of your data from multiple platforms, so my website's there, my Google business page is there, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, everything's in one place with Metricool, and that costs me about £12 a month. So if you've got budget, that's really good. There's another tool that I'm using, which is an AI tool. And the jury's out for a lot of people, because you can go into ChatGPT and ask it with the right prompts to create a lot of stuff. But the tool I'm using, I pay for. And it's almost like AI, but to the next level, because I've loaded in, it took me about half a day, but I loaded in all my brand values, my mission, my information about me and my business, who I work with, how I help them, why people use it, all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's almost educating the AI. Yeah. And I use that tool, and it's called Marketing Magic. And it is absolutely brilliant. And it'll create blogs, social media content, website content, emails, landing pages. It's a massive tool. And actually, the young lady, I met her 2 years ago, the young woman that created it, Menexe, is incredibly talented young woman. By her own admission, she's well and truly on the spectrum. That's her words, not mine. Yeah. But she's very clever. That's a brilliant tool. Canva, I'm on Canva every single day. Yeah. Canva is brilliant. You can use, there's so much, I think in end of May this year, they did a new launch of a whole shed load of new tools on it, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. It's a phenomenal tool. I love it.
Yeah, I use Canva quite a lot, actually. Even I mean, the free version is great, but I do have the paid version for that, because it's just it's so powerful, isn't it?
It is powerful. I mean, actually, at the minute, I'm just writing a proposal, which I've never done before in Canva. I'm writing a proposal for a piece of work in it, and it looks really professional. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's great, and but there's lots of people. There's a lady who I know who's here in the UK, who's a Canva ambassador, and I'm part of her community, which I pay to be. And she shares loads of tips and hacks and things that you can do, shortcuts and stuff on it. But I love it. I love a good tool. Yeah. But I think the other thing I would say is look at investing in a professional scheduling tool. Most of them are around £12 a month. £12-15 a month. Metricool, you can use the scheduler in there if you're using it for reports. If you go Canva Pro, you've got the built-in scheduler. The only thing I don't like about it is once you've scheduled it, it's sort of gone. Yeah. And that's a problem.
Okay, cool.
And use to Business Suite, it's free and it gives you loads of data.
Yeah, I find that really hard to use, the Business Suite, though.
I agree. I don't like it. I've got a client who wants everything done in Meta Business Suite, and I dislike it intensely.
It's just looks so confusing to start with, and you're just not a fan. I've got about a million more questions, but just before we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you wish I'd asked you, or you want to just finish up on?
Gosh, don't try and be every man or every woman. Don't be everywhere, and think about I think the last thing I would say is when you think about your social media, think it as one part of your business, is that we get business in lots of different ways, and thinking about how you're going to get new clients. And the last thing I would say is it's really more of a tip, is if you get an inquiry in for a new piece of work, somebody wants you to do a quote for something, always ask them how they first heard about you. Because often people will psychologically, we're hardwired to say the last thing we saw. So if they were on Instagram on their phone, they might say Instagram, but it might be that they were at an event and somebody was talking about you. Yeah. So you never know. So it's always good to ask that question. But yeah, I think it's, for me, quite simply, it's have a really robust social media plan. If you ask ChatGPT, what is a great social media plan, it'll tell you. Yeah. Start with that as the foundations, and then build on it. and build on it, and make sure your content's varied.
Okay, cool. Is there, just a last little question, is there like a good length of video that, like, as I mentioned before, I tried the longer ones at around 1.5 minutes and the really short ones, and neither seemed to do anything. So is there a general better length video size?
I've tried all sorts, and I think it's more about the time of day you're putting the video out.
Okay.
I think it's more about the time of day. And what you could do is you could do a message. You could create your favorites, and you could do a message to all your favorites and ask them when's the best time of day for them to see your content. Ask the audience, your audience, when are you most likely to, when would be a great time for me to share my content? I would do that.
Yeah. Good tip. Again, I'd love to keep going on and talking with this stuff. I might have you back on again if you're up for it. But
thank you. No, I really enjoyed it.
So if people wanted some help with this or wanted to get in touch with you and see how, like, I know you do training courses and you do management for people. So where would you send people? What's your Instagram? What's your website?
Karen Cureton Social. It's a really, really strange one. I keep playing around with it. I've been Karen Cureton Social for about 3 years, but the website is Cureton Consulting. And anybody wants to have a chat, they can go on the website and you can book a free, no obligation chat. No pressure. I'm not a pushy salesperson. I don't do that.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us. I feel like I've learned loads, and I'm going to get a handle on my Instagram and keep going with it.
Cool. Thanks, Jack.
So there we go. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. And again, I just wanted to say a big thanks to Karen for coming on and sharing her knowledge with us. So just quickly again, I wanted to mention that I'm always on the hunt for new guests. So if you have an amazing story that you'd like to share, or a particular topic that you think this audience would find interesting, or if you know of someone that you think would be a great guest, then please get in touch. You can do that by emailing me at feedback@thefulltimefunctionmusicianpodcast.co.uk, or easier way to get in touch is through Instagram, which is @InFocusRecordingCo. That's it for this one. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next week for episode 30.